So think back to the very first job you had in construction. Maybe you were 16 and sweeping out houses. Maybe you were asked to grab a tool from the trailer that you'd never heard of before. Whatever it is, that first job, those first days, they're memorable. They stick with you. Today we're going to talk about the topic of bridging the gap. Does the classroom prepare students for the industry? My name's Noah. I'm joined by Adam, Ken, and Scott, all shop teachers, all trying to prepare students for the industry. Let's get into it. This is the Foreman Podcast. Ken, I'm going to ask you a question. You are both in the industry currently, and you have people that work for you. You're also in the classroom at the community college. So, your students that are graduating from your program in the community college, would you hire them? Are they job site ready?
Um, it's kind of I would say some of them are. Like I currently am using one of my previous students as a subcontractor for me in my job. So he's doing a job for me right now. There's unfortunately as many kids that has been through that program in the last 3 years, and it's really just a construction class. It's not really a full-blown program. We have a robust electrical program that a lot of apprentices go through, and their employer pays for them to go through it. But my construction class is an elective. So I've had probably a handful of sharp students that would absolutely could work in work for me, essentially. And so I guess my answer to that would be, yeah, I'm currently using probably one of the best students I've had so far. As a subcontractor, he owns his own business, was doing kind of what I was doing by, he's a remodeler, works for himself. So I have him set up as a subcontractor through our business.
Was he already in the industry when he took your class?
A little bit, yes. So that's where, like the first three classes that I taught, I've been doing it for 3 years, they all had really sharp kids in them that had like construction experience. That's what they were doing for their job, or they grew up doing it or something like that. And it seems like as this class progresses, like this semester, I had maybe one or two out of the 16 students that really knew anything about it. So they were, I think, just taking it as like a filler, not really taking it serious. And that was kind of frustrating.
Yeah, yeah. What
Yeah.
about you, Scott? Like you've obviously had a lot of hands-on training. Do you feel like the hands-on training is what could set students up for success? And you also do credentialing. Like,
Yeah.
what do you think that sets them up for success?
Well, I've got a lot of kids who take my class for because we're in a high school, and I've got a lot of kids who I think take the class just as an elective, like it's shop class, and I'm okay with that. But like kind of in that first year, I've had a lot of them. Like I hear parents at parent teacher conferences that are like, yeah, they're really surprised like how much there is to the class. Like there's a lot of they have to pass. I mean, it's like 13 tests throughout the whole year. And we try to get them through like year one of a carpenter's apprenticeship. So, I mean, that's kind of tough for like, I mean, if you're a freshman, and I don't know, that could be like 15, 14, 15, 16 years old, like to go through and learn all that stuff, things, I mean, all the weird terms maybe you've never read a tape measure. So I don't know. I think it's kind of a success. You said, you asked Ken if he had his students that are career ready or job ready. That's kind of a loose definition. I think if kids are familiar with tools, able to read a tape measure, they kind of generally can function on a job site safely. There's, I think about when I was doing construction, like it took such a long time. Uh, I framed houses with guys that were probably like in their 40s. And I mean, I learned by just asking questions. So it took, years to like learn stuff, just doing it every day on the job. Like cutting rafters and stairs, laying out walls, and you know, uh, so anyway, I don't know. So we use, yes, we do credentials and I don't know, students when we go out to the house, that's when I get students who are more serious, but still there's a lot of them that they're just kind of in the class because they had fun the year before and it's kind of cool. We get to go out and build a house. We're out of the school for a couple hours a day and but then they don't go get a job in construction. Uh so I'm kind of torn. And I've been pondering the question of students being career ready or ready for a job in the trades. It's tough. I think it's really tough.
Do you, are you good? Do you think that the industry's changed? So you said like I felt like it's different. I'm like you. I grew up framing, and I felt like I could had a lot of opportunities to learn. Do you think that because of the shortage of stuff that the like on job sites, it's harder to train people? And I'm not
A
trying
lot of
to jump topic too
no.
much.
I don't know. I think with school in general, I think like my son's in chemistry and he's like, this topic. And I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? I did a YouTube search. I'm like, I got three different teachers that can teach me this thing. Like when you're in construction, there's people that they have a whole YouTube channel of nothing but like teaching you all the tips and tricks of being an electrician. There's so much stuff out there that can help you learn online courses. So if you are just starting as a carpenter's apprentice or like a electrical apprentice, I think maybe your question was like you're going from like task to task because there's so few people and you're kind of flying through stuff. Are you really truly learning? That's kind of how I read that. And so my answer would be you're getting a wide range of stuff. You're getting a very broad skill set, and maybe you're not going super deep, but I think at no time in history have you been more like able to go get that information on your own and learn.
You
Yeah.
just gotta be
So
hungry enough
yeah,
to go
yep,
find it.
yep,
What do you think, Adam? Because I think a lot of the people that you probably come in contact with are like brand new to touching tools and
Yeah.
everything like that. Maybe a little bit younger of an age.
Yeah. I mean, since we're an after school program, they have to elect to come to us. Um, but we've really just focused, one of the things I've just really focused on is skills. Like, can they use the tools? Can they use a miter saw safely? Can they read a tape measure without the 16th markings on it? Like, can they do those things reliably and consistently? Because there's a big difference between like the skill and then the knowledge of where like to lay out a wall that's different. But can they at least read a tape measure to understand that, like, can they do they even notice that every 16 inches that square is a different color than the main tape? Things like that is where we really focus on. Now, I've had a couple kids actually go into the construction industry, and they kind of had a natural aptitude for mechanical stuff. Um, I think a kid, it kind of like depends on the crew. Like, does the crew want to train someone? If the crew wants someone fresh and to train them in how they frame, then I think one of our kids could hang. Because we also really work on work ethic. So I just want someone that will show up and like keep raising their hand, right? To say like, we need another 2x4. Like, I want my kid to be the first one running to the pile and coming back with an extra 2x4 to cut for whatever. Um, what in the world to do with the 2x4? I'm going to really depend on the crew to tell him or her to like take that next step. So that's where like trying to work more on like the soft skills, why I have them, and those kinds of things is where kind of our program has really leaned into.
Yeah. I Ken said being hungry.
Yeah.
I thought we had Alan Myers come in and they hired like three of our students. It was really cool. They always hire our students and they always basically talk to all the students and then they ask me, hey, who here seems like a great worker? Well, like when I first started, there was a student that was deciding between going to college or doing this. He had like a family situation where he kind of put things, he wasn't 100% sure. And I said, go work for Alan Myers and just go work hard. And like, I can't teach you anything about heavy civil. That's what they do. And this obviously isn't a heavy civil, class or anything like that. But if you work hard, you'll go far. Well, when they came back, they were like, "Hey, that student that you gave us, and which it was three. It's almost like three each year." He was like, "This kid's like, he's like done in 2.5 years what most people have done in 5 or 6." And the one thing is that he did was he raised his hand when they like said, "Hey, does anybody want to do this?" He was always the first to raise his hand, and he just outworked everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it was exciting to see, but you're like, can you teach? Can you teach work ethic? Can you do it? And I think you're right. Like you can teach that. Hey, be the first to grab it. Be the, outwork everybody else. So, is that what you see, Ken? Like when you're dealing with
Yeah,
employees?
I think so. Like that's sort of how I've grown up. Like I'm never the most talented person, but like I'm willing to work harder than anyone and ask questions, and I think that's what it takes in our industry in order to be successful. You can't go in there acting like you know everything because you don't. You're going to deal with guys that have 20, 30 years more experience than you, and it's all about perspective. And you also, like Adam was saying, you have to have people willing to teach them, which I think is unique in the company I currently work for, that we have a lot of carpenters in our workforce that are in-house carpenters, and we're bringing in new guys constantly, and our lead carpenters are used to training people. So we go through a lot of young apprentices, I would guess you call them, just simply because some people just aren't cut out to just work hard every day, which that's what it takes to be in our industry and to be successful.
Right.
Do you think that the industry just has a hard time finding those students? Because obviously there's a huge gap, right? The gap, and you can find it anywhere, and everybody knows it. Every builder you talk to, we're so short people, and they said like basically how that's like 5 million short in like a few years and everything like that. Do you think that the hard thing is just connecting the students to the opportunity, or do you think that there's just not enough students that are willing to work hard enough?
I think it's a mindset thing. Like with anything, with like trying to bring jobs back to America. I was listening to Mike Rowe talk to Theo Vaughn about that, and he's like, we have a lot of unemployed people, but they're don't want to do those jobs that we don't have people to fill those jobs. So it's like a mindset thing where a lot of people know construction is hard, and they just maybe don't want to work that hard
Right.
if they can sit home. So
Well,
that's initially why I started teaching, is to try to find those guys and seek them, simply because just out in the real world, you got to go through a lot of people to find those ones that you're looking for, like the ones that are just willing to just put in more effort than other kids.
What were you gonna say, Scott?
I was just gonna say, like, we've discussed how goofy we were when we were younger. Like, kids, kids need time to grow up, and um, I kind of wrote a little mission statement for like myself for the class, and it's like I'm gonna teach you how to like work hard, have an eye for quality, work with others, and like critical thinking. It's like because even if I have the most amazing carpentry program, you're like 16 years old, and like I probably could teach you. It would be the rare gem you would find. They would be awesome, but like overall, I think we're trying to get kids, we're trying to progress them and like show
Right.
them, hey, this can be fun, this can be exciting. Look what you can do with your hands. Like at the end of the day, you see your work, like all that stuff we all know. I don't know, it's exciting. I think it's exciting when I'm trying to explain something and a kid like, oh, that's not that tough. And I'm like, you got it. Like
Right.
they just overcomplicate things. And to break also the kid just want in school, like I'm like, what I like about this is that we're gonna try to solve this problem. And like if it doesn't work, like in math class, you just miss the points. If this doesn't work, we're gonna tear it apart or unscrew it or whatever, and we're gonna try it again. And we're gonna get it to work. Like
Right.
and it's gonna be awesome. And I mean, I still remember like one of my first, I think it was my first year teaching. Like we were building a little, it was like a coat closet that was like cantilevered out over a stair hole, the stairway. And it was like we got to have 6'8", and we were chalking lines and stuff. And this kid's like, "How do you know what angle this is?" I'm like, "I don't." And they just look like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "If it's wrong, we're just gonna like pull it off and like cut it again." Like, like people in general who don't know much about construction, and especially students, they think like you do step one, step two, step three, and it's done, and it's like perfect. And if any one of us pulled sheetrock off of our walls, we would see like things are good enough, they're close enough, like it's not like the holes um
We're
for
not NASA.
Romex are like, as big as the wire and they're all go through and none of the wire. Like people really think like sometimes stuff is like that because they're used to like cut and dry. Like it's an art. We get to put a building together, and like some things are close, some things are dead on. So, and sometimes when it's all done, when it's all done, it's beautiful and it's amazing and it's a great feeling. So I don't know if we can get kids to like progress
I
and
know this is Adam, and one thing I've wrestled with is because I do intro. I mean, like we teach a lot of like sixth graders, seventh graders that might have hung a picture, right? And they'll be like, "Hey, Mr. Adam, can you help me do this?" And then I do it really simply and like not a problem. And they're like, and then they get defeated, and I'm like, "Okay, so how many times in your life have you used a drill?" And they're like, "Well, I was in class last week. I showed up on Saturday." So I was like, "Okay, so maybe like 3 times in your entire life." I was like, I'm well, currently I'm 39 and I've, been using it since I was 5 years old. So like, give yourself some grace that you haven't instantly learned this skill that is a skill. Like it's not, it's something that is honed and is perfected.
then Adam takes it like blows off the dust, twirls it and puts it in it. You'll get
Exactly.
there, kid.
Right.
There is those guys that I'm sure we've all worked with them when you're like, this guy is, late 60s. I should be way outworking him, but it's almost like the golf swing. He's just smooth and steady, and he just
Oh
crushes
yeah.
it every time. And you're just like, this guy is it's just the experience. I can't do what he does until I've done it 1,000 times
Right.
Yeah.
or
Yeah, or
2,000.
10,000.
Yeah,
It's no wasted movement, working
right.
efficiently.
So I think some of the question is like what I think Scott's like mission statement, and we have a similar mission statement in our shop where it's actually like four. We call them the 4 things to be successful today. We say you have to be teachable, you have to show up on time, have a positive attitude, and work the entire time you're here. And we're just like, if you can do those 4 things, then you will be successful, like at whatever it is. But I
Even
think
at work.
yeah, most
Yeah,
definitely at
if you
work.
do two of those things at work, you're a rock star.
Well, the fact that I agree with you is terrified, and it's like 50%. But I think it's like those mission statements. I think are great ways to like progress students. To like Scott made some great points about like, I mean, Ken, you're dealing with early 20s. You have a wide range. Your age range is a lot different. Scott and I are a little closer of like everybody's under 18, but like of that idea of just working hard, kind of challenging who they are, understanding that just because I know kind of how to use a tool, that doesn't mean I know how to use it every single time I walk on the job site, or like how to apply it in a different way. Like you're talking about those stairs, like, like it's the experience is everything, and you have to keep at it to get it.
And
Um,
I think the teachable thing is the biggest. It drives me nuts when students are like, I got it, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. I got no thing. And I'm like, look, this is your one opportunity. If you go into the trades, I don't know if you'll have somebody that's going to teach you. This is your
Right.
opportunity to ask a question that you may be nervous to ask.
Right.
Like, if you're asking me questions, I'm never going to get upset unless I've told it to you 1,000 times. But, like, you're not going to have this opportunity to say, hey, am I doing this right? How can I do it better? Those things. The teachable thing, I think, is what is huge. I love the idea of a mission statement. I feel like I'm going to add that to what I do.
Dude, just side note, Chat GPT can really help you out there.
It's been
Like
helping me out since day one, my friend.
you can kind of throw your general ideas into that, and then it will help, like, make it mission statement-y sounding, and kind of condense it,
Yeah, yeah.
that kind of thing. So
Just making a note.
yeah.
I
I
I
am.
literally I with some of my classes to become a teacher, they had you do that, and I ran it past my principal at the time, and I was like, I mean, do you think I'm on to something here? Because I always viewed my class as like an elective, like kids just take it to have fun, and I kind of wish I would have. Speaking of like the skills gap and our high school students ready to go out and work, I kind of wish I would have um been more trying to attack that problem earlier. I think that's a good way to put it. Like it would have pushed me to tailor my program to be more aggressive in that way.
Do you think, and kind of on that subject, do you think that like I wish like at a younger age they would have a kind of an opportunity to be kind of comfortable with tools and things like that, and so by the time they got to my class, it could be like their interest is already sparked almost. I feel
Yep.
like the tough thing is like how do you get their interest sparked? Because maybe the parents have bought into this idea. I'm fortunate in my area. It's kind of a blue collar area, and there's a lot of respect for the trades, which I think is vital to a successful program. Um, and talking with other trades teachers that maybe it's not a similar situation. I think sometimes that's a struggle. So I don't deal with a lot of the maybe the preconceived notions that like man there's no money in the trades or this is less than, whether it's college, whether it's whatever,
Right.
it's less than, like I don't deal with that. So do you think that like maybe sparking their interest, do you think that at a younger age is a game plan, or what's a way to like really get students to kind of maybe see this
Well,
as a career opportunity?
Noah, did you have shop class in middle school and high school?
I did not.
Yeah.
I had my
Like,
dad. I
was it
had my dad's
available?
nope, company, and it was just like you work. When my mom was done, she was like done with us. It was like at 13, you just go out to the job site.
How about you, Adam?
I had a dad. I mean,
Yeah.
like, I mean, I got my first handsaw when I was 6,
Wow.
and a hammer and nails, and I remember building a toy fort
Huh.
from scrap
All
wood
right.
that we found. So I mean, but like I, yeah, I've been tools have been my like love obsession since I was 3 years old. My dad has stories that aggravate him to this day when he retells them about me hammering screwdrivers into trees, and I painted. I mean, like, yeah, so like I love it. But to this point, like one of the things I've wrestled with um, is like kids thinking that it's easy, um, and then like or aging into like sports because they want to go play basketball or something like that and getting sucked in. So I'm trying to push our program into some earlier years and do maybe more like craft classes, not so much like construction, but expose them to, I don't know, kind of like a Home Depot Saturday project where you just kind of like hammer together a pre-cut birdhouse, and
That's
trying to
cool.
spark that interest earlier, so that way, like you're talking about Noah, as they age, they would like come back around and stick around and see an interest earlier. Um, we're trying to kind of push it more into like the fifth, sixth, seventh grade area. So
Ken, did you have shop class or?
I did in like sixth and seventh grade, but I mean, I also had a dad that like order for me to hang out with him. I was going to work. He threw me on a dozer at like 12 and said, I'll be back in a couple hours. This is what I want you to do. And I was like terrified. But then he came back in 2 hours and couldn't get me off the thing. And
Destroy
I
two
think
houses.
and a forest. But I think part of the issue is, like with construction, you have to be okay at failing. Like, we fail a lot, but we learn from it, and that's how we gain experience. And kids these days are just taught that failure is not an option, but really that's the only way to get through life, is learning what not to do.
Right.
And now how not to do it.
I've heard that Navy SEALs, I think saying they have is fail forward fast. Like you just, if it doesn't work, you just try the next thing. If that doesn't work, try the next thing. Anyways, so what's funny is I grew up, I had middle school shop, high school shop. My dad was my high school shop teacher, and we did like some woodworking and we did like built a house. I ended up like, I didn't work with my dad like summers or, like my dad when he was done at school, like he came home. He was also the head football coach, so did that
Oh my gosh.
like quite a bit of the year, even though the season's short. Anyways,
Kind of an overachiever.
Yeah.
so
I mean, Scott's
and
kind of an overachiever. He's very humble, but I
He's
mean,
low
like,
key. Yeah. Very
yeah,
low
no,
key.
no.
when you start talking about all he does, you're like, wow.
Oh, stop it. So, because here's what I don't do. My son, he loves to work, but not like pounding nails. He wants to like mow yards and tinker on like weed eaters and there's so many projects around the house. I'm like, well, hey, why don't you help me change this toilet or finish the basement? And ends up he's got sports practice and this and that, and it ends up like I am a trades teacher and I'm not even teaching my own kid, the trades. So
Yeah,
I
but I
don't
think
know.
that the like the thing is like I think sometimes the notion is like I want everyone to go into the trades, and that's not right. Not everyone's going to make it, but not as everyone's going to enjoy it. I want to find the students that are going to really enjoy it and really succeed in it. And how
Yeah.
do you find those students? And how do you give them an opportunity? My biggest fear is a student walks out of my classroom and been like, that was a waste of time, and I really want to go into the trades, right? That would devastate me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So how do you do that? How do you improve your program? How do you connect better with the industry?
Yeah.
I guess
That's
that's the
my
million-dollar
worst
question,
fear.
right?
Yep. Yeah. I've had somebody ask me, we did like a anyways, I talked with this kid's parent, and the kid's parent said, "Oh, I'm so glad you're here. He talks about you all the time. He loves you as a teacher, all this like," and I'm like, "Your kid
I
doesn't
write
say
them
a
up every
word."
day.
No, the kid is quiet, like doesn't say a thing. And like to me, I'm like, how is it that this is so meaningful to him? And like I didn't see it in the
Yeah.
classroom. So that's
Right.
interesting. And the other thing is like, I just don't know how. Sometimes you're planting seeds. I had some real knuckleheads my first couple years, and those jokers came back like 4 years later or something, kind of at different times. Like they knew where we were at in town, and they would stop by the job site, and they were like, "Yeah, things clicked, but not in high school. They grew up, and I'm like, yeah, well, that's how it always works." But so I don't know how to get kids excited while they're there and to just ignite that fire. I think we just keep, to me, I think how I've settled that in my mind is I keep exposing them to cool things, what I think are cool things, things that excite me, and I try to let my excitement like come out. And so let's have fun doing this together.
I think that's great. I mean, just like it's always contagious to be around someone that's excited about what they're doing, and I think kids gravitate towards that. And I think just fighting. Honestly, I mean, I think some ways in the school, I was a shop teacher in a school for 3 years, which is crazy now, like 15 years ago. So I think in some ways Yeah, I'm starting to get old enough to I can say
You're not
15
even old
years.
enough to be.
He was 4 years old.
Yeah, right.
You're so you're so unk.
So yeah, here we go. Uh, but I mean, I think some of the stuff is just like, fight for little smaller classes because then you can get to know your students sometimes. And I know that's a huge tension point in public schools. I mean, we fought that all the time, and I would show up and there'd be like 12 kids or 15 kids, and I would just be like, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to watch 15 kids. I was fresh out of college trying to watch 15 kids, like teach them how to use a miter saw. Had two kids over here using a circular saw and praying, you know,
Yeah.
puckered up is just like, by the grace of God, everyone still has their fingers.
Terrifying.
It is. I mean, it is absolutely terrifying. But I mean, that yeah. So just like small things like that, but just I think Noah, you're fighting for a good program. You're fighting to build a house with habitat, and I think those things are cool. And I think just continue trying to do good marketing so that the student population knows that those are happening. So that way, maybe that will pull in a kid or two, and actually have somebody sign up. Um, those kinds of things. I
I,
think are just
I
yeah,
think sometimes school, you feel like they're getting in the way of a good program, but I don't think it's ill intentioned a lot of times. Like they want you to be successful, but just sometimes the logistics or whatever it is.
yeah,
Having not been from the education world, a lot of stuff is frustrating. And when I first started out, I was mad. Not that I've been teaching for that long. I would get mad about that stuff. But then I'm like, it makes sense that they have to do certain things. Like, I don't run the school,
Yeah.
nor
We
should
come
I.
from like the doer world though. Like we lose money if we don't make decisions
right,
quickly and keep moving forward. And it's like, well, let's think about this for 3 years, and then we might get to half a decision. And it's like, I've already made a decision 6 months ago. Like, let's just keep moving.
right,
Yeah.
On this note, I've thought about this because there was a conversation we had at the SASHCO Teacher Appreciation Dinner, and my curriculum came up. And somebody I respect was like, I know that curriculum and I think it's garbage. And I'm like, like, and I know that it's not loved by everybody. And so my thought was though, I feel like it's a good attempt at standardizing training nationwide. That's a tall, tough task. And
yeah,
so like,
Right.
and I have lots of frustrations with the curriculum we use, but like it is guiding us, and I have the freedom to like build whatever projects I want to teach those things. And like, we're still cutting boards and laying out stuff 16 on center. Like, so I'm like, until there's like something better, I think it's pretty good.
I'll
And
say I'll say
go ahead.
this because you might be talking about NCCR. I felt that way going into it, and that's just my ignorance. And it wasn't until you said you did it. This year, all of my twos and threes graduate with Corecraft, and the goal is to get them Carpentry 1 certified. And it wasn't until you said it till I was like, you know what? I'm probably wrong. I probably need to readjust this, rethink it, and maybe in my ignorance, just,
Well, as the years
take
have
some
gone by,
advice from someone that's been doing it for a lot longer and probably learns a lot of
lots,
stuff.
lots long. So what I thought after,
It was a dig as I was trying to give you a compliment.
thanks.
We
he's
call it
actually
backhanded.
wearing a wig. He doesn't have any hair now.
As the years have gone by, what's funny is I've realized, because I'm like, there's times with any curriculum, I'm like, oh, I've never seen this out in the real world, whatever. And, as the years have gone by, I've realized like the universe doesn't revolve around me. And the way I've been doing it isn't how everybody does it. So, like, I remember seeing a rain screen in a textbook a long time ago, and I'm like, this is craziness. What is this? And I asked some of my buddies that were in commercial, and they're like, yeah, it's in commercial construction. I was like, yeah, cool. Like, throw it out. And now I'm like, that's all. Like, it's a, it's things. It's something we do, and it's makes
It's
a
a
house
big deal.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, huh. Wish I would have like bought into that a decade ago.
You would have
So
been a trendsetter.
yeah. So, and that was something like it's in a textbook, but just because it's on paper, like, should we throw it out? No. Like, I don't know.
But all the guys 20 years ago that were not building high-end stuff, they didn't use that
Not
technique,
at all.
so it was a waste of time.
Right.
And
Right.
that's how you were trained. And I think that's part of it too. Like you have to go in with that hungry, always trying to learn something new mindset, and you'll be successful in this industry. But if you go in there and this is the only way I do it, there can't be any other different way that I can do it, and I don't even want to try a different way. Like I'm constantly on YouTube learning from like Jared Kaufman, who is basically 20 years younger than me, but has been in the industry his entire life and is a super smart 23-year-old that is a good teacher. And I try to implement some of his videos in my class to get that hungriness out in kids. Like there is younger people that are super successful at this. Granted, not everyone's going to be a Jared Kaufman. It's like making it to the NFL, but he has a unique perspective and it's kind of a cool way of teaching stuff.
Agreed.
Yeah, definitely.
And the other thing I would say real quick is that a balance between being out on the cutting edge of like the new stuff versus like how we've always done it, like about finding that balance because like we're still allowed where I live to do like 2x4 16 on center with like Tyvek and then like panel siding on top. And like I've heard like you watch like Matt Reisinger videos or other people are like, man, we shouldn't be building like this. This is terrible. And I'm like, that's what we do. So it's like you need to teach kids how to like go out and survive in the market we're in, but also let
Right.
them know there's something better and there's a better way to do it. So there's kind of that balance. I think we should kind of our role, like not everybody's going to have lasers and saw stops and all that cool stuff, but like, like saw stops aren't that much more expensive, and like you could have one and maybe save some money on your workman's comp insurance or whatever. Like there's better ways to do things. We don't always have to do it the same way. So,
And being my classes, so basically we have 3 hours a week and it's all hands on. And that's what I try to do is like I'll have groups of like 3 or 4 students and then like one student will build a wall structure with OSB and Tyvek. And then another group will build it with zip and all they have to do is tape it. So they're getting experience with like, oh wow, there's a lot more steps to that and you have to really hit the details. Whereas there is better material and it's more expensive, but it's less labor and it's way simpler to crush those details.
yeah.
So I try to give them that kind of perspective is there's all kinds of ways to do stuff. Some are better than others and you have experience of which ones you would prefer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, quality is what, like, you can give the same materials to anybody. I can't build to the level that Matt Reisinger builds, right? You can give me the exact same stuff. He's just going to build it better. Now I can learn from that and I can, build better. I want my students to build really well, whatever it is, whether it's 2x4s, 2x6s, exterior walls, whatever that is. If you just build really well and take your time as far as focus on those details, I think that's what ultimately is, most important.
I mean, I've heard him and Matt and Steve say like a well executed system and you nail the details, like they're not at like if you have a system, whatever it is, whether it's Tyvek or Zip or whatever, but you can nail the details every time, then like do that system well.
Yeah.
So, yes, there's preferences and, people grow into preferences so many times, but they will acknowledge that a well done system is a well done system. Now, to your point, to all of you, I mean, Ken's point, sometimes it's like, well, maybe certain details need a lend towards more skill than other details. And that's where sometimes, you can vary. But I think, I think that's a great example. Ken's doing in the shop is doing different mock-ups in different ways to try to give them as much experience of what you could see on a job site.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't want to send students out and first job and they're like, hey, by the way, first day, you're doing this wrong.
Yeah, you don't want that for sure. They'll be like, "What'd you say?" Get a hammer chucked at them.
That's right. All right. So, I think you want to wrap things up.
Yeah, I think,
We can
and this
we
could
can edit
we
it.
and this can be like something we could come back to. I mean, I think this is maybe not even a part two, but maybe just revisit later. I feel like, how do you get kids excited for this? I don't know. Like, this is a good one. This is a good topic.
It's good even just for me. Hear things like
Yeah.
you said about the mission statement and things like that. There's things that we can all implement. Doing the mock-ups. I don't know why. I should have my carpentry one students doing a bunch of mock-ups and stuff like that. There's stuff that, like, even just for my own self, if I walk away from this and be like, one or two students benefited, my teaching got better. That's what
Um,
the ultimate goal.
I heard Matt Bloomquist say at that Zero Failures in Colorado this past summer, he goes, a third of the kids like are just crushing it. They're going to go on and be great construction workers. A third are like kind of like, you gotta keep motivating them. And then there's a third you have to go find because they're hiding and not. And I'm like, that is amazing. I am not alone. Like, I thought I was weird, but no, it sounds like, because from what I see on Instagram, he's amazing and does amazing stuff, has cool projects. I'm like, if you have those same struggles, like, I'm normal.
At the end of the
So,
day, he still has kids hiding and vaping.
yes, that not good for him, but good for me.
Yeah,
Right.
and they'll actually probably do pretty well on the job site.
Well, and what's funny is, like, I mean, think of all the people we know we went to high school with, and like, 10 years out, 20 years out, like the superstar athlete, maybe they're doing okay now, but like maybe the people that were quiet or unmotivated, maybe out there crushing it.
Right.
Right.
So, I don't know.
At the end of the day, something caused us all to want to be a shop teachers. That wasn't our trajectory, right?
Right.
Right.
So, like, who knows what can happen in someone's life?
Yeah.
Right.
So, I certainly don't. I wish I did go on that trajectory sometimes. Just kidding. All right. Do you wanna do the outro, Adam?
Yeah. What do we say?
What?
Go drive
Nice.
a screwdriver into a tree.
Right. Go drive a screwdriver into your tree. Frustrate your father to the nth degree.
Also,
So,
thanks for listening to the Four Man
yeah.
Podcast.
Oh, that's always good to say.